where you can use Mighty Ukko, complete guide, masteries, the gear, the team synergies. Let's dive straight into it. What up team, it is your boy MurderInc here, talking about the new fusion. This isn't going to be a guy trying to convince you to fuse him. If you're 100% deciding on him or you do pull him later on down the line, I want to show you guys what you can do, how to build this guy, masteries, all of that good stuff. I am going to try a little bit different of a layout than I normally do for champion spotlight videos, so let me know what you guys think of this. First thing I want to do is talk about his kit really quickly. 109 base speed, beautiful. We have a speed aura, we have that attack down on the A1, the A2 attacking all enemies twice, each hit having a separate chance to remove 2 random buffs from the target, which is huge. Of course, if you book it, it goes to 100% chance, places block buffs and decrease accuracy for 2 turns for any targets that have no buffs after the attack. Then we have revive all enemies with 40% health, block damage, which is great. Also giving them increased speed. We'll place the increased speed even if there are no dead allies, making this not a useless skill if nobody's dead, which everyone should strive for on their teams. Then we have an awesome passive, 50% chance of stealing 1 random buff from an enemy each time they receive a buff. Any stolen buffs become protected. Huge, huge, huge. So the first thing we're going to do is, of course, I'm going to try to cover everyone from early game all the way to end game here as best as I can, of course. So let's go ahead and click on Mighty Ukko, and this is where it's going to get a little bit different here. So we know that he has increased speed and he needs accuracy. So the first thing we're going to look for, regardless of where you are in this game, is you're going to head straight to the fitting room here and you're going to look for an accuracy banner. That's going to be key here. Secondary stats you want are going to be speed, HP percent, and defense. As we can see, I am a bottom of the barrel as far as my options here. I have 2 on my entire account. So if you're seeing this and nothing's showing up, simply deselect defense first. If you still have nothing, you have to decide personally on your account if you can sacrifice speed. He has very good base speed straight out the gate, so that is something to consider for sure here. However, that might not be the best solution for you, but you're gonna have to pick based on your account if you want to get rid of speed or HP percent first here. So I do have a triple roll here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on. The next thing we're going to do is head to the amulet. So for the amulet, we're going to head to the substats, make sure everything is clear here. We are looking for an HP or a defense amulet, and we're kind of just going to browse through and see what our options are. We do want accuracy as our secondary here to kind of bump us up a little bit because we are a debuffer in this sense here. And then this is where you simply just go through, see what you have at your disposal. Things you're going to be looking for as far as other secondaries are going to be flat defense and flat HP based on the main stat of the target. So for example, if this is a HP necklace like we see here, I'm looking for defense rolls that we do have. Things like attack, crit damage, those are things that we aren't really looking for. So if we can find anything, this is the perfect one right here. A triple roll in defense and a single roll in accuracy. It could be better if you're an earlier account for more rolls into accuracy, but for now I am going to take this for sure. And if you have to decide what's better for survivability, don't forget that HP is always going to be the better survivability stat no matter what. So this is going to bring us to the ring portion of this. The same thing is going to apply here. We're going to put HP and defense up, then we're going to select HP percent, defense percent, and see what our best options are here. So for this triple defense roll, we already know we have lots of HP rolls, one being the base stat of the neck piece, so that can be a deciding factor in me taking defense rolls, overlooking something like this ring, for example, that's going to have HP percent instead of defense. Now, one thing to note is, since this is flat defense, I am going to elect to go with this ring, simply because double defense isn't going to outweigh defense and HP for how I would personally build my characters. but you can play around the survivability and see what you have that's available to you, because of course every account's going to be different. The next thing we're going to be looking for are going to be speed boots and what kind of gear set you want to gear this champion with. There's nothing wrong with a speed set. He has no heal, so if you want, lifesteal gear is going to be an option. If you're going to struggle with accuracy, as we can see, granted I have full faction guardians. For the skinwalkers, I have a full great haul. All of these things that give me additional accuracy. If you don't have that, accuracy gear sets or perception, preferably perception, is probably going to be more in line with what you're going to be looking for here, because it's highly unlikely you're going to have 238 after simply placing the bottom row of accuracy. It's also going to be dependent on the type of content you plan on doing here, so for now, we're just going to simply search for speed, accuracy on the substat, then defense and HP. These are going to be the perfect boots for this champion. The gear set, like I said, is going to depend on what you need for your account. If you're all set with accuracy, like my account's going to be, an immortal set's going to be huge for this champion. Probably not a relentless set, but if you want to, you can use reflex. Of course, speed, perception, all viable options as well. So with that being said, now we're going to be looking off to the chest piece, rounding out this set bonus. I like finishing set bonuses earlier on when I'm building champions, just so I don't run short and say, okay, now I need one piece of this specific. I mean, mostly the bottom row. You should always do the bottom row first, because that's where the main stats are going to matter much more here. This is another example where you can either go with an accuracy chest if you're an early game account and you don't have lots of good sources of accuracy. Banners are much harder to find. I know the struggle of farming spider, believe me. So if you're all set on accuracy, defense or HP percent, up to you as far as a preference goes, and I would ideally try to match whatever set bonus you picked for the boots or whatever first piece you did pick. So for this, I'm simply going to head to immortal gear. I'm also going to be looking for the subset of speed here. That's what's going to be important. We want this champion to be fast. Revivers, getting multiple turns means a lot for sure. So this one's looking perfect here. We have HP, speed, no accuracy because I don't think I need it, having 259 already here. Moving on to our next piece as far as gloves go. Once again, very similar, if not identical to the chest piece. We're looking for HP or defense percent. Looking at us right now, we want to get at least 3000 defense, and you can say maybe I can gamble with the shield later on, or you can go ahead and skip straight to the shield now. That's probably the smarter thing, so we're just going to pull the trigger and go ahead and do that. Now we're going to look for a defense percent on a shield here, and I'm glad as things are happening. And I kind of like this format too, because I get to formulate ideas in my head as far as what works and what doesn't work as well here. So why did we pick a shield? Shield has flat defense on it. It shows us how close we're getting to that 3000 defense mark here, which should be the goal for most players. And if you need accuracy, you can go ahead and do accuracy. Everything from here on out is going to be filler until we go back to the glove section. So speed, accuracy, defense, HP, that's going to be the dream shield. I can just put it up really quickly here, see how many shields we have. We do have one. It's in a set that we're already using, so you know what, why not just pull the trigger and use this. Okay, so we're at 2,700. I can gamble and try to round things off with the helmet here, hitting that 3,000 defense mark. My health is pretty reasonable right now, so I can just go ahead onto the gloves, say let's just full commit with defense here, deselect defense percent here, so we have defense main stat, HP substat, speed substat, and then finally accuracy. So I'm looking for any set that would make sense for this, which of course would be this one, perception. So now we have perception here, and we're locked into a second perception piece and a second immortal piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the primary stats, deselect defense percent, and now we're going to look for any combination of HP percent, speed, and accuracy in the sets that we're currently missing. So let's start with perception, and then let's go ahead and open up immortal here. So immortal has much less options for me on my account, and we want to make sure we're deselecting the gloves as well. So let's kind of do that again without that error here. So I have two weapons, one helmet here. So I have a much bigger picking pool from the perception gear. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this, speed, accuracy. Those We don't need those too much, but you can get defense on a weapon. So I do want to check the helmet first. No defense percent here. So we're going to gamble and say, hopefully one of the helmets on this side has defense. None of them do. So I'm just going to pick whatever one offers me more stats simply by looking at the yellow numbers here. 18 speed compared to 13 speed and significantly more health. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. And now we have our perfect build for the mighty Ukko. This is how I would recommend going through all of the gearing process and all of your champions from now on. And of course, I will apply this to the future of my champion spotlight videos. If you guys do enjoy this gearing section, if it makes it easier for you, you can definitely give me feedback in the comments if you noticed anything or if I went too fast. So with that being said, I would then equip this gear here, and then we would head on to the mastery part. So as far as masteries go, you have to say, okay, where am I going to be using this champion? If you're going to be using this champion in dungeons, Doom Tower, campaign, anything like that, you're going to go with the typical and standard clan boss tree, getting War Master for some additional damage here, and then finally going down the defense tree, getting those counterattacks in. Why do we want counterattacks? Because we have an amazing attack down on the A1 here. If you're still missing accuracy despite everything we've already taken from the gearing portion, you can then go the support tree. Keep in mind, you lose a massive amount of survivability by not taking the defense tree. So if anything, you would sacrifice a lot of damage instead of survivability, going the defense tree I showed you before, and then adding whatever you have room for on the support tree. And you can either go for Iron Skin, you can, since you're a reviver, you can take Timely Intervention to give you a nice boost to your turn meter if someone does in fact die, or you can simply head down here like I'm doing. Chance to extend the duration of debuffs, a must-have for sure. Then you can grab Eagle Eye, or as I was trying to explain before, you can head this way, extend the duration of your increased speed, and take Timely Intervention. Outside of that, it's really up to you. You can take Arcane Celerity, or you can take Rapid Response, another viable option altogether. On the start of your tree, if you want to do this, you can head straight down the support tree and then take Rapid Response as well as Arcane Celerity to get an even bigger turn meter boost to your champions. Then from there, you can branch off to two different sides here, taking Lore of Steel, of course, Master Hexer, as well as Lasting Gifts, and this is definitely a really strong support tree setup. So regardless of what you're doing, this is going to help you out in any aspect of your gameplay while using Mighty Ukko. So the question then people might have or be asking is this guy worth booking? And quite honestly, I don't think you need to book him. Is it going to be good if you book him? Of course. We have a 6-turn cooldown on this A3 unbooked, which is rather long for a champion providing increased speed. Not gonna lie. So if you want to use him consistently, you might try to gamble away at this. The good news for this guy is there's really no bad place for where his books can go because his A1 is so strong. Other champions, like, let's just look at Arbiter, for example. Arbiter's A1, okay, she's a terrible example because she has a weaken, and that's definitely viable. Let's look at, let me go back. Let me think of login champions that are very, even Duchess. Let's look at Duchess. 6 points in the A1. Yes, her shield's good, but is it good enough to have a higher requirement of 5 extra legendary books? Most people are going to book it, but the main goal here is getting this A3 and this A2 booked. And every time it hits the A1, especially the first two that are damaged, who's building a damaged Duchess? I've done it once for a clan boss video. It was a lot of fun. Full defense, hard hitting Duchess. I think it was like 80,000 per hit. That was fun for sure. But anyways, it feels pretty bad. Even though you are getting a shield, like I said, the shield's not really big. Unless you're in endgame, then it's going to be viable. Let's see Sifi. Okay, another champion that has a viable A1. I'm on a roll today. What about this one? Surely this isn't going to be good. Okay, this one, irrelevant. Second hit has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 50%. 50% to 60%, who cares? So, Lady Kimi, perfect example. I should have started with her. Feels bad if you get those books in the A1. So luckily enough with Mighty Ukko here, even if you are booking this guy and trying to gamble away at this A3 or this A2 ability, I don't think the A2 needs books necessarily because 75% chance times 2 is really strong as it is, and that's only to remove the buffs. It places block buffs and decrease accuracy if they have no buffs guaranteed, pending accuracy check of course, but outside of that, everything's just an added bonus here. So this is the new A1, I would say, if anything, for this champion, where you could really go without having Mighty Ukko, having books in the A2 here. So A3, A1, top priority for booking if you, not that we can choose, but even without books, I don't think it's going to kill your team's progression, and this fusion's insanely strong regardless, simply if you can get this champion in your hands. So with that being said, there's one other area of this game that this guy has some major potential, and that's going to be for the endgame players out there. Thankfully I have timestamps where if you're not interested in all that other stuff, if you're endgame, nothing that I've talked about so far with this champion is going to matter to you, but the main thing is, what about the endgame? Because his passive reads very interesting. Has a 50% chance of stealing one random buff from an enemy each time they receive a buff. Any stolen buffs become protected. So, $1 million question, what about stone skin gear? So from some testing, gear sets that are applied at the start of the battles aren't considered as being placed, because it has to happen when this guy gets a turn, because this passive goes into effect after those gear effects work based on the aligning and the coding of this guy. So the only way you can steal stone skin, which you can, which is insane, is if they apply a buff. So like if a Sifi goes on their team, this guy can then steal the stone skin buff, which should be really strong. However, you have to remember there are so many RNG aspects working against you. So as strong as this could be, and this could definitely disrupt lots of teams, think about Necrit, how strong this could be against Necrit. You have to hit the accuracy check. Then for things like a stone skin that have a chance to prevent you from stealing it, you have the 50% chance based on this skill. So that's the first layer of RNG. Then you have the accuracy check. If you hit that, let's say you're at 100%, that's a 3% chance to fail on top of the 50% chance of you stealing it altogether. And then if you go to the set bonus of stone skin, for example, just picking one random one, gives the stone skin buff an additional 50% chance of blocking removals or steals. So that's now 3 layers of RNG you have to get through. Now, if you do steal stone skin, it becomes a protected buff. You're sitting pretty, because you took an OP gear set buff from a champion, making them pretty much useless, because it's, even to this day, it's hard to have a champion geared with very good stats in stone skin. So if you can take this buff, despite the RNG around this, you're sitting pretty. And the same thing applies to taking ally protection. Now, ally protection is definitely under less RNG than something like this. You can get rid of an entire 50% chance. So it's just the 50-50 chance of the passive, and then it's the 3% accuracy check. But if you can take ally protection, if you don't know this already, the damage done to you is going to be reflected onto the person that applied ally protection on the enemy team. So if you're getting hit by a nuker on their team, you're reflecting that damage back to their team on the original person. For our example, is going to be Necrit. So this is going to be huge for sure, and it's such a strong passive despite how RNG it is. So would you bring this guy on offense against someone like a Necrit? No. The odds are way too low of this happening, way too much RNG, and it would just be a terrible choice. However, on defense, it's going to make the opponents that are trying to hit you think hard and long about what they want to do, saying, okay, they have a 50-50 chance of stealing any buffs I put on, and they become protected after that. So a lot going on here. Krisk is popular. Krisk can now extend buffs that are stolen from this guy, making it even more dangerous. Of course, that wouldn't apply to stone skin, but the only thing to mention is if the buff is protected on the other team, it cannot be stolen, of course. But outside of that, that's going to be the major draw and use for this guy in the end game. What about someone like the Hydra? I wouldn't say this is consistent for the Hydra either. The rest of the kit's really good for the Hydra. Block buffs, decrease accuracy, that's a home run. Attack down, AoE, another home run. Revive, block damage, increase speed, home run for sure. This part here, stealing buffs from the Head of Mischief, that's going to be stealing buffs from you. It's way too RNG. Yes, it's going to proc quite often because there's no cooldown on this skill, but to use this as a buff stripper, it's just not going to be viable, because if your team is dependent on not running resistance and getting buffs stolen, you cannot count on this champion for any logical team to be consistent in the role of removing any buffs from the Hydra heads that could be a potential danger to your team. So that's going to conclude this kind of guide, how to use this guy, overview on him. I know I didn't show him in any content. I thought about this long and hard. My account is so advanced that there's no way I could replicate a dungeon run that's progression. I've tried in the past. I've tried to save 5-star gear, but it just wouldn't do anything. I could make a Hydra team. Like I said, my gear is completely busted. I would make all of this Hydra look like a complete joke, regardless of me using Mighty Ukko, or if I used 2 rares instead of this guy. I just have too good of gear, and nothing I could show you here hasn't already been explained in full. So give me your thoughts on this. If you do want to see showcases despite how overpowered my gear can be, let me know. I'll definitely add that into the next champion spotlight. And now, as always, guys, if you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.